you doing? I'm back for another ghost story and some makeup. I hope you're excited for another one. This one is another personal one about my family and I. I know I'm going to eventually get off of these, but this one's really good and I wanted to share it with you guys. So I hope that you like it as much as I'm hoping you'll like it, if that makes any sense. So I've already started with my hyaluronic acid. Now I'm going to go ahead with my primer. And I feel like I should go ahead, because I've addressed this once in one of my earlier videos, but I'm going to address it again in this video. The reason why I use my hands to apply my primer and my foundation and my concealer is because I have fibromyalgia and it really affects my hands and my fingers, my joints. And so it makes putting on all of those things while using a beauty blender or a brush kind of difficult. And so while I have all of those tools to use on clients and things like that, if I hold them for too long while I'm doing my own face, once I get to the nitty-gritty of putting on eyeshadow and eyeliner, mascara, eyelashes, it becomes really difficult to hold those really small tools. So what I opt to do is put on the big things with my fingers and then use the smaller tools to put on the finer details. This makes it so that my hands don't hurt me so badly and I can actually get through a full face of makeup without struggling, and by the time I'm done, my hands are just aching like crazy. I've been doing this technique for years, and honestly guys, I feel like when it comes to makeup, in the end, when it comes to application, I feel like you just have to do what works best for you, because we all have our own things that inhibit or make things difficult for us, or sometimes things easier for us. And we have to work with what we've got, and we have to do what works for us. So do what you got to do, girl or guy or whoever. Do what works for you. So without further delay, on to today's ghost story. Back in 2019, my family and I moved from Texas to Pennsylvania back to my hometown. Now, one of the things that I absolutely love about my hometown is that most of the houses are pretty old, like built in the early 1900s, and they've all got this really awesome personality to them, and it just makes you fall in love with the houses here. They're awesome. Look, I got hair dye on my forehead because I just dyed my hair. So I've got that going for me. So this house that we move into was built in the early 1900s, and it was super adorable. And so we move in. We didn't really know much about the previous owners. All that we really knew was that the woman who lived here before us, her husband had passed away a few years before she decided to sell. So we moved in, and the house was just absolutely perfect. It's a 3-story. It's got an attic. It's got a basement, 3 bedrooms, perfect for our little family. And if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know we've dealt with hauntings before. So we were like, okay, we got to be on the lookout. There might be some shit happening around here. But we were there for like 6 months and everything is super quiet. And so we were totally at peace. There was nothing going on. We were living our best lives. Everything is totally cool. It was awesome. So let me preface this by saying I have a nose like a bloodhound. I can smell everything from a mile away. If you have smoked it, drunk it, eaten it, I can smell it. You cannot get anything past me. I will call you out on that shit in a hurry. So one night, my husband and I are sitting in bed, and I turn and I look at him and I'm like, dude, have you been drinking? And he looks at me like I've absolutely lost my mind. And he's like, no. Now, in all fairness, I had been with him all night and we didn't have any liquor in the house. So the question was odd for me to ask, and I'm sure it was odd for him for me to be asking the question. But I am telling you, as plain as the nose on my face, and this is a schnoz, I could smell liquor. Not beer, liquor. Straight up, hard liquor. And you guys, it didn't just happen once. It happened over and over and over again. We would be standing in the foyer, and I would look at my husband and I would say, again, have you been drinking? And he would say, no, I just got home from work and there's no liquor in the house. And he'd say, what do you smell? And I'm like, I'm telling you, I smell whiskey or some sort of hard alcohol. And he's like, you must be smelling things. I don't know what you're smelling, but you must be smelling things. Except that it kept happening over and over again. In just random parts of the house, I would get the smell of alcohol. And then, as if the smell of alcohol wasn't bad enough, I started to randomly smell men's cologne wafting through random areas of the house. Well, I mean, you live with a man, you say, but nay, nay, says I, because my husband doesn't wear cologne. See, he tends to wear really strong smelling deodorant, so he really never bothered to wear a lot of cologne. So if I smelled cologne wafting through the house, wafting through the house, I knew it wasn't him, which left me a little weirded out. And so every time I would smell the cologne and my husband was around, I would say to my husband, do you smell that? And he would say, smell what? Because I have the nose of a bloodhound and apparently nobody else can smell the things I smell. And I would say, that cologne, do you not smell it? And he would inevitably say, no, I don't smell it. So at this point, I think I might be going crazy, which is possible, so I don't really fight it. Until one night when my husband and I were laying in bed and we started hearing what sounded like footsteps walking back and forth in the attic. The only problem was cats. So initially, we didn't really concern ourselves too much with the walking back and forth in the attic. So from there on, we started hearing things like footsteps in our attic, and our cabinet doors would start opening and closing to the point where we could even hear them latching themselves. And this oddity stuff was just continuously happening. And we would even check to make sure that our cats weren't up in the attic making these crazy footstep noises, and they would always be downstairs, so we knew it wasn't them going on and making all of this crazy noise. Which leads us to what I'll call the happening. So late one night, I was innocently in the kitchen before going to bed. I was getting a drink or whatever, and I was standing at the kitchen sink when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. Now, I couldn't quite make out what it was because it didn't seem like anything normal. It didn't seem like my husband, but I didn't know what it was. It was just kind of shadowy and weird looking. So I turned my head to look to see what was standing next to me, and I kid you not, it was an elderly man with gray hair, sort of balding, with big, happy cheeks, just smiling at me. Like, excuse me? I stood there in absolute petrified shock for what had to have been a good 30 seconds before I grabbed my shit and ran the hell upstairs as fast as I could. And of course, I'm all yelling for my husband, frantically breathing heavy, panting by the time I get up the stairs. And he's sitting on the bed looking at me like I have lost my ever-loving mind. He has no idea what the hell I'm doing. So he looks at me and he's like, what the hell? What are you freaking out about? What's going on? And I'm like, babe, there is an old man downstairs in our kitchen. He just looked at me. He was standing there smiling at me like, I don't know. But I saw him, and he is downstairs in our kitchen. You have lost your freaking mind. What are you even talking about? There's an old man downstairs. What did you see? Tell me what's going on. So I took some deep breaths. and started to explain it to him again because clearly he did not hear me the first time. So my husband and a very panicked me waddled downstairs to see what the hell was going on. But of course, because ghosts don't tend to hang around, he was not down there when my husband got down there to see what I was freaking the hell out about. Since we've been through this kind of thing before, and my husband likes to entertain my freakouts, the good man, he puts up with my crazy. He sits down on the bed and he starts thinking real hard. After about 15 minutes of him sitting there thinking, he says, "Babe, do you remember the name of the people who lived here before us?" And I said, "Yeah, I think it was blah." And I'm not going to say the name of the people who lived here before us because I think that that would be rude. So being the deft researchers that we am, we got on the computer and did a search of obituaries for the name of the gentleman who passed away whilst living in this house. And without too much of an effort, we were able to find said gentleman's obituary. And next to said gentleman's obituary was a picture of said gentleman. And my husband says to me, "Oh my God, babe, can you describe him one more time?" And so I do. And he goes, and I say, "What?" And he turns the computer to show it to me. And there is an exact match of my description and the man who passed away prior to us moving into the house. We're kind of like, whoa, Nelly, I'm pretty sure I just met the fine chap who used to live here. A few days later, my husband was up in the attic and he saw a shadowy figure that resembled what I had explained to him and what we had seen. Of course, me being me, I want more information. So by this time, we've lived here for a little while and we've made friends with our neighbors. And I start asking them questions. It turns out our new friend used to play in a band locally in town, which means that he spent many a nights out at local pubs, and it turns out he did enjoy having a drink or two. Hence, that's right, that liquor I kept smelling. Turns out he was also a pretty heavy cologne wearer. We're all living in pretty good harmony. Well, that's it, you guys. Let me grab some eyelashes, and I'll be right back with your final look. All right, beauty corns, this is it. This is our final look. It's fun, it's fresh, it's wearable, but it's still colorful, fun. Do you like it? I'm loving it.